about the breath a little because I think people don't realize that your anxiety goes up when you hold your breath. So when you sit and worry about things, whether it be business or a project or having a baby, you don't realize you hold your breath. It's kind of like when you were little and you were playing hide and seek and you didn't want them to get you. You were like, you held the breath. Yeah. So you're taught from a very young age to hold the breath when you're scared or when you're playing.
Right.
But that pattern goes into adult life. And when we hold the breath, and then the messages kind of come from the brain of like, well, and yourself, your inner self of like, you haven't breathed for the last 10 seconds. You really need to breathe. So then what happens, anxiety starts to come in the central nervous system, and then a panic attack starts to come because you've maybe not been breathing for like 25 seconds.
Yeah.
You're being like sitting there doing the dishes and...
Yeah.
And you don't know you're in this thought that's terrifying you, and you've started to hold the breath, and then the anxiety comes to tell you that that's happening.
Right.
So you need to be very focused on your breath and train your in breath work, which I've given Lauren the fabulous video of Frederick Laboye, who's a pediatrician, and it was done in the 70s, and he kind of taught women to be training as warriors and samurai, and that's the kind of breath, not this passive breath, but actually a breath with kind of purpose, that there's this thing going to happen, this, and it's not a battle, but it is it's going into the unknown.
Yeah.
And we'll do that in a minute. But how do you feel now with the overwhelmed?
Better.
What number is it at now? I feel like it's like a 4 or something. It's kind of went down a little, but not a lot. Yeah. What is the feeling now? That you can't get out of it. Basically, you're kind of like, there's no one else that's going to incubate it for you.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's still that then? Yeah. It's still that, but with something else on top. What's the sprinkle on top of that that's core?
I think I feel bad for feeling this way.
Yeah, and that's common, and I don't like that. May I put that in the record? I don't like to make women, mothers, pregnant women feel bad that they feel overwhelmed by this huge honor and responsibility. I'm sorry, but like, let's eradicate that from the consciousness. Even though I feel bad. That I feel this way.
That
I can't cope.
That I can't cope.
I deeply trust myself. Even though I feel bad. At feeling this way. That I can't cope. I deeply. And profoundly. Love and accept myself. For being honest. Even though I feel bad. That I can't cope. That I'm having these thoughts. I deeply. And profoundly. Love and accept myself. I feel bad that I can't cope. I feel bad that I'm having these thoughts. I feel bad that I'm having these thoughts. I feel guilty. I feel really guilty. I feel really guilty. That I'm having these thoughts. I feel guilty 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 I'm having these thoughts. Okay, take a deep breath. Okay, here's the big one. It's shame.
Yeah.
It's this either ashamed that you feel like less than other people who just got on with it. Or you feel like so ashamed, or you feel shame that you're like, not being more than, so which one kind of hits you more, ashamed or shame?
I guess shame. It's, you hear all these women who are like, this is like, it was the best part of my life, it was like such an awesome experience, and like the first trimester was hell for me. Mm-hmm. And then, trying to wrap my head around having like 2 babies and what this is gonna look like, it's like overwhelming, and I'm just not in that like, I love this right now.
Well, I think that's really easy when someone's had a baby.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you know, people that climb Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
After, once they've climbed it and went
Right.
through all the frostbite and everything, they say it was amazing.
Right.
But during it, if you stuck a microphone in their face, they would probably like smack you. Of,
Right.
Like, what are you doing?
Right.
I'm in this place. I'm
Yeah.
in a struggle. So.
Because people are like, oh, are you loving this? I'm like, sure.
So you feel shame that you're not loving it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's very common, and that's the mothers that I have been working with have said, and I've wanted, you know, this video because it's hard. So even though I feel shame that I'm not loving this process.
That I'm not loving this process.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
I deeply
and
profoundly except I'm scared right now.
Except I'm scared right now.
Even though I feel shame.
I feel shame.
That I'm not loving this process.
That I'm not loving this process.
I deeply
and profoundly
love and accept and trust myself.
love and accept and trust myself.
Even though
I
feel shame.
I feel shame.
That I'm not loving this.
That I'm not loving this.
It's difficult.
It's difficult.
I deeply
and profoundly
love and accept myself.
love and accept myself.
I feel shame.
I feel shame.
That I'm not loving this.
That I'm not loving this.
I'm not loving this.
I'm not loving this.
I'm not loving this.
I'm not loving
I feel
this.
shame.
I feel shame.
I'm not loving this.
I'm not loving
I'm just
this.
not loving this.
I'm 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 really not loving this.
I'm really not loving this.
I'm not loving this.
I'm not loving this.
I'm not loving this.
I'm not loving this.
It's hard.
It's hard.
It's really 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 hard.
My first trimester was hell.
My first trimester was hell.
It 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 was scary.
It was scary.
And hell.
And hell.
It was scary and hell.
It was scary and hell.
It was scary and
It was
hell.
scary and hell.
It was scary and hell.
It was scary and hell.
It was scary and
It was
hell.
scary and hell.
It was scary and
It
hell.
was scary and hell.
It was scary and
It
hell.
was scary and hell.
Take a deep breath. Do you feel like a hostage?
Every morning when I wake up, I'm like, how am I uncomfortable already? I'm like,
Like when you wake up in the morning,
oh yeah.
you feel really uncomfortable
Oh
already?
yeah, my husband's always like, are you ever gonna wake up in a good mood right now? I'm like, I hope.
Let's do that then, because that's, you know, significant, you know, that you feel like, you know, maybe you're even waking up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning and you're like, oh, I can feel this burner, I can feel something uncomfortable, and then once you wake up, because you've been lying in bed for 90 minutes,
Oh yeah.
just in resistance of getting up.
Right.
Yeah.
I
We all
mean,
know that.
I can't wait that long because of course I have to pee. ASAP.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So let's, you know, so you're waking up in a bad mood because what is it you're feeling? What's the sensation? Actually, let's do this in another video
Okay.
because this is physical stuff.